All right, everybody, we're back. And again, welcome to a great webinar Wednesday here at Messer Financial Group. The focus of the presentation today is going to be Medico and how some of their hospital indemnity plans can help offset some of those costs for your fixed income Medicare Advantage patients. I think we would all agree as you start to look at what's coming to us in 2021 for the open enrollment season, we have a plethora of zero premium plans, but it's really a question of the true cost of the insurance and how to help offset maybe some of those large expenses that are surprises for our members and clients versus that lower monthly premium fixed cost that'll give us that sense of security. Our good friend Augusta Norris is with us. She's been a great friend to us here at Messer Financial Group, and we're thrilled to have her and thrilled to represent Medico and present that to you guys today. If you haven't gotten your contract with Medico, make sure that you reach out to producer support here at Messer Financial Group at 866-568-9649, and that extension is 7813, and they can help walk you through where you need to go to get that appointment and get that squared away for you before we get to October. Also, you want to make sure that you find out a little bit more about MyMFG and the many uses that it will serve as a tool for you. And it's a great thing to have both for the over and under 65 enrollment season. And we'll be doing a number of webinars as we get to the end of September to help make sure that you understand the full functionality of that great tool that's available at no cost to our financial group. And that's something that Bill and Roy felt very strongly about to make sure that you guys have the utmost in technology when you go into those homes and go to work those enrollment opportunities. So again, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Norris, and just to let you know, we'll let Augusta do her presentation, and then we'll do some Q&A at the end to wrap this thing up. So again, thanks for joining us. Augusta, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeff, and thanks for that introduction. Thank you, everybody, for being here on this wonderful Wednesday. I hope you're having a great day. I hope the weather's nice wherever you are. It's about 43 degrees, and it's been raining for the past 2 days here in Omaha, so big change for us. Hopefully it's a little bit nicer for you guys. Like Jeff said, my name is Augusta, or you might have heard me called Gus. Either one is perfectly fine. When you want to reach out and have a conversation, I go by both of them, and that's okay with me. Today we're going to talk about hospital indemnity plans, and we're going to talk about how to bring them up during AEP, and then maybe even some other times during the year, getting your clients prepared for that conversation, and then coming back to that conversation as well. But most of all, just really how to protect those clients against those potential out-of-pocket high costs. And then to end today, we're going to go over my Enroller just to make sure that we're all comfortable with it and its features. I know this year's AEP does look a little bit different for everybody with the COVID thing going on. You might be stuck at home doing your AEP this year. So my Enroller is going to be a huge tool for you and how you can reach out to those clients. And we're going to go over that. I'm going to show you how to download it just in case you do need a little recap there. But as we go along today, if you do have any questions, please just feel free to ask them. If your question is, can you have the slides? The answer is yes. I'm going to be sending them over as soon as we're done today. And then there's a few other pieces out of here that I'm going to send over as well as a little bit of a follow-up package for you. So don't worry about that question. I've already got you handled there. You'll have everything that you see on the screen by the end of today. So just hold tight on those questions. So as we jump in here, if you're not familiar with Medico, or maybe you are familiar with us and you're always looking for some talking points, why should Medico be your company of choice? We personally think that there's a lot of reasons, but we want you as the agent to have those reasons as well. First and foremost, though, you are our priority, so your success is our priority. We want to put you first, and actually, hospital indemnity is a great way to show that. We revamped our product in 2018, and it came from feedback of agents. It wasn't something that us here at the company were like, oh, you know what, this might be good. It actually came from agents and ones that were out there selling it and ones that said, hey, I would sell it if you did this. And we made some of those changes. So we want you to know that your success and your input is what we really value, and we want to make changes based on that. Now, your questions are always going to be answered, and you have a very big team behind you that's actually here to answer them. You have the sales team, which includes myself and my team. Our team works great together. It's something that we're pretty proud of and something that we like to strive for as a team is that cohesiveness that we have, and where one leaves off, the other can pick up. And we really don't mind to really cross those lines. So if you can't get a hold of me one day, you might be able to reach somebody else. They're going to be able to help you too. You also have customer service and agent services. So for you and your clients, you have a designated department that is there to help you. And I'll let you know that our agent services, the average tenure on that team is 40 years. So if there is something to be known about our company, somebody there is going to be the one who knows it. Most likely they've either worked in other departments or they've been on that agent services team for all of those years. So that's pretty incredible to have too. They have a great reputation. I love working with them. We also have our underwriting department. So our underwriters are in-house, just so you do know. Our company is somebody that you can call in and say, hey, I need to talk to an underwriter about this policy, and then you might even have the underwriter's name. You can get over to them and have that conversation. If you need somebody to do a second look on one, so maybe you submitted a policy and it got denied and you're like, I just don't think that's right. I need somebody to take a second look. We'll have a lead underwriter go ahead and do that for you. You can also do the same with claims. You can call in, you can talk to claims. We do have a full portfolio of products, so we have more than just hospital indemnity. If you are new with us, we have MedSup, a dental product, and first diagnosis cancer as well. That first diagnosis cancer product is extremely easy to understand and sell with only 3 application questions. And I'll let you know that it has taken off like wildfire this year, and sales just went through the roof. It's becoming a more talked about product, and people are kind of getting away from that stigma of talking about cancer products. So it's a huge one to have in your portfolio. And then you see over here on the right side that big A-. We are an A- rated company, and that's something that we're pretty proud of. What that means basically is that we're just a financially strong company, and we're always looking for more partnerships and ways to grow. So as we get into today, we're talking about hospital indemnity, which is obviously an ancillary product. And one of the things that when you talk about ancillary products is it gets you to that customer loyalty and retention. And that's what we want. We want to keep those customers for a lifetime. And we don't want another agent to come in and offer them these products and then somehow they end up being their agent. So what you see here, these 1, 2, 3, those are in reference to products. And I always tell people, think about starting with your main product. So maybe that MA product or a MedSup product, whichever. So that's your one product. With one product, you have a 35% chance of keeping that client for 5 years or more. Now, we want to build on top of that with ancillary products. So maybe you add this hospital indemnity plan that gives you to 2 products, and now you have a 56% chance. But if we can get them to 3 products in a household, you have a 92% chance of keeping that client for 5 years or longer, to a lifetime. And that's where we want to get to. That's where the ancillary talk comes in. And that's when we start thinking about more products than just the MedSups, the MAs, PDPs, all of those. So before we go ahead and dive in here, let's look at the current trends of what we're seeing kind of out here in the hospital indemnity world, where they're fitting in. The main thing that we're seeing, which is huge right now, so we're getting ready to go to AEP, is that Medicare Advantage enrollees are growing every year. It seems like any time that you talk about AEP or Medicare Advantage or anything along those lines, really just health insurance in general, this is the argument you hear. Well, it's growing every year, which is great. We want that opportunity to keep growing, especially right before AEP when we're kind of looking at our audience of who am I going to talk to, where are my conversations going to go, and what is really my main talking pieces while I'm out here. This is what we want to see. We see a steady growth, really, from 2018 to 2019. It increased by 8%. Now, I know this says 19, but we just haven't got to the 2020 yet, all of our records yet. But that 8% actually equals 1.6 million. So it's still a lot of people, and we still see that opportunity out there that's growing. And if you ever wonder where I'm getting these numbers, you can see your source down here at the bottom of the screen. That is the Kaiser Family Foundation, and they're actually one of those sources that has amazing facts out there, more than just the graphs or the numbers. It'll walk you through those too. So I do encourage you, if you'd like to have some of these, go out there and look around. It gives you just great talking points, if nothing else. Makes you sound even more resourced and like you've been looking at these for days and days. So sticking with this kind of theme here, out-of-pocket maximums are decreasing. So even though our Medicare Advantage are going up, out-of-pocket maximums are coming down. But with that coming down, we're still looking at over $5,000. And that's why those clients do need that help managing those expenses from gaps in coverage or maybe that high cost share. We see where our opportunity lies, and that's going to help you go look at that book of business and say, okay, I know who I need to talk to. Now, can I start narrowing it down? Maybe make those lists a little bit more where you want to start talking to about hospital indemnity. And when we start talking about hospital indemnity, it's a cross-sell. We know that. It does come into play with that cross-selling opportunity. There's times that we can talk about these, and actually you can talk about this all year long, but one of your best opportunities to bring up the conversation is during AEP. And luckily we're getting ready to go into that, and you're getting prepared for that right now. This is when you're going to be able to sit down with that client kind of face-to-face. It's more than just a phone conversation, so they don't kind of start daydreaming on the other side of the phone or through an email so you know that they don't read it, or maybe a letter. All those things are great throughout the year, but during AEP, when you can sit down and you can talk to them, you can put it on that scope of appointment, which means that you can come back to it and talk about them as well. When you're also here, you're talking about those main healthcare insurance. So when I say main, I'm talking about the MAs, the med subs. And you're gathering all that information. So you're doing your research already for a hospital indemnity plan. You're going to be able to explain to them their current plan and its gaps. Now, I do know that this takes a while. I understand that. This conversation alone can take an hour or more to explain the difference in an MA or a med sup or a PDP or whatever it is that we're selling while we're out there. And we might have to come back to it. That can always be a first quarter conversation as well. You already have your conversation done. You've laid the groundwork. They always say it takes 3 touches. You've already done some of that groundwork for there, and you can come back and talk to them as well. They still know what their current plan is. Maybe they've had to use it by now, and they're saying, hey, I have a lot of gaps here. And you can say, yep, you sure do. Let's look for a way to cover that, and you can come back to it. However, there are a lot of people that would rather be proactive. So when you're talking to them during AEP, really plant that seed. You can say, and we have a great worksheet I'm going to get to later for you. So a lot of what I'm saying right now, you're probably going to hear it again, and I am aware of that. Sorry for it. I tend to repeat myself, and that's okay. But I'm going to show you a worksheet that's going to make it even better during AEP, so you're not just kind of throwing all this at them. You can leave it with them, and you can let them make that decision, and you can work through it with them too. What it's going to show you and what you're ultimately trying to talk to them about during AEP is let's eliminate high cost share gaps, and let's get you a day one coverage if you go into the hospital. A lot of those major healthcare plans are not going to offer that day one coverage. So let's look at a way just to start there. That's a great place to start talking about a hospital indemnity plan. So we're going to jump into Medico's plan. And before we do jump in here, if you're taking notes or anything like that, just a few things to know. Our issue ages are 40 to 85. There's no attained age premium adjustments. There's a 7% household discount. And what that means is that your client lives with somebody else who's over the age of 18. Now, your question, does that person have to apply? Nope, not now, not ever. If they don't want to, we're just going to need their first and last name of that person that they live with. Can it be a roommate? Yes, they don't necessarily have to be related, even though most of the time they probably will be. That's totally fine. Also, one of the best things about Medico's products, and not just the hospital indemnity plan, is we don't charge a policy fee. So when you submit that policy, we don't charge you a fee at all. Where are we available at? Everywhere that is in blue is where Medico is going to be available for our hospital indemnity. Now, our products, if you're not familiar, sometimes the state varies where they're available at. So don't take this map and think that this is all Medico's products. This is hospital indemnity. And if you are looking for other Medico products, like a map like this, we can get you that too. Okay, so sticking with how we're going to sell this hospital indemnity plan, this slide usually comes at the end, but I really wanted to switch it up and put it here today because we're having those conversations during AEP, and that's where these healthcare cost conversations really tend to come up. And when you can emphasize how those unexpected healthcare costs are going to damage those financial situations, it's helping you sell that product that you're getting ready to talk about. This is kind of that prelude into your product here. Some of the financial aspects, and I'm going to bring all of these up. This is a survey that we went out and we looked at just to help you as an agent kind of say, hey, let's look at all these and then let me show you how you're going to solve this problem of this financial effects here. So 44% of the people that went into a hospital or they had any kind of healthcare costs last year had to set up a payment plan. And I always tell people, think about when you walk into a hospital to maybe just visit somebody, the thousands and thousands of people that you see in there that you just kind of run into and you have no idea who they are. Half of those people are going to have to set up a payment plan. So that's an opportunity to bring that up and to bring and let you talk to them about. I always say relate it back to real life. You're going to have this conversation with these guys, and we don't always just want to throw insurance talk at them. It's hard to understand sometimes. So relate it to their real life. 42% spend all or a majority of savings. If we look at average savings here, in a household of 65 and over, their average savings equals $5,600. We know in the healthcare world that $5,600 goes absolutely nowhere. It really does not cover much. So we want to try to keep that intact as much as we can. And when I'm saying savings, I'm not talking 401ks or retirement plans. This is like you go to your local bank and it's your checking and savings account that they can get right then and there. So we want to try to keep that intact as much as possible. And you can talk to that too. That's another very relatable subject to bring up during that conversation. 27% are unable to afford necessities. Now, necessities can change for everybody, but think basics like food or heating or housing. It can get really expensive for those things. And then it might come down to a decision of, do I pay my health care, that bill that I have to pay, or do I pay the other bills I have to pay? Which one of them is going to be the one to go? Hopefully it's not the heating or the rent or the homeowner's insurance, but you never know when it comes down to things like that. 23% take on credit card debt, and we all know the last thing we need is more credit card debt. And then 7% have declared bankruptcy. So that's money that we're never going to see again. So as you talk about that, you're going to say, hey, so let's look at a solution that's going to help with that. Let's look at a solution that can offset all of those financial aspects. And as we go through here, keep in mind that this premium is 10 to 20% lower than anything else in the market. So this premium is going to be lower than anywhere else that you can look at. And it also is going to offer basics and riders that nobody else can offer. Now, as we're looking through here, these 5 things are the basics. And when we say basics, that is what's built into the plan. So on here, you're not going to pick and choose between these observation or emergency room. You're going to pick and choose between days and dollar amounts here. And all of this is available in the My Enroller. So as you're going through here, you're thinking, Gus, this is a lot of dollar amounts and a lot of days. How am I going to remember this? Well, you don't necessarily have to. You could print out this sheet, and then I have another slide that has all the riders on it. You could print those out and just keep them with you as short talking points. Or on your My Enroller, it gives you everything in the first page. So you don't even have to go anywhere to get all these options. So as we look through here, hospital confinement benefit, what is it, what to do? That's where they're going to start being paid on day 1. And they're going to be able to choose their dollar amount per day from $100 to $600. Now, I will say that our most popular is about $350 to $400, and that is also in your area. If you're out there in North Carolina, that is most popular out there because North Carolina is our #1 selling state, so that's what's driving that popularity. So $350 to $400 per day is what we're seeing for days 1 through 6. We know that MAs start paying after day 6, so we want to get those first 6 days covered no matter what. But you also have the options of 7, 8, 9, 10, 21, and 31 for days. That's going to start paying on their day 1. So let's say that they go to the hospital and they're just sent to the observation unit. They're not actually admitted. That's okay because they're going to be covered for 100% of that for up to 6 days per calendar year. The average observation unit stay is about 3 to 4 days. So they're going to go ahead and be covered for that most likely as long as they don't get past that 6 days. There's no minimum or maximum hours required per stay. Now, how that's beneficial for you and your conversation, if you're looking at other companies, we know that Medico is not the most widespread known name out there. We are aware of that. There's some other companies that are probably better known for their hospital indemnity. But if we look at them and you look at their observation unit, it's going to cover 50% And then they're also going to have a minimum of 6 to 12 hours required. Not here. As soon as they walk into that observation unit, they're instantly going to start being covered. And that's one way to kind of offset that conversation of, well, I don't actually know who that is. That's okay. Let's just look at the facts here. The emergency room benefit, $150 per day for a maximum of 4 days per calendar year for accident or injury, and then they have to be admitted within 24 hours. So that's usually kind of what trips some people up. They say, okay, well, what if I'm not admitted within 24 hours? So I always say, again, go back to the law of averages here. If you have somebody 65 and over, on average, about 90% of the time, if they go to the emergency room, they're admitted into the hospital. If they're not, they're held in an observation unit. I had an agent that had a client who had a heart attack, and he went to the emergency room, or he thought he was having a heart attack. Sorry, he actually didn't. And when he got to the emergency room, they said, well, you're not having a heart attack, but we're going to send you over here to this room for a few hours. And they waited there for 12 hours. And so they had submitted their claim, and they were confused on why the hospital confinement benefit didn't kick in, but it was still paid. Well, they actually sent them to an observation unit. Even though they never admitted them, they don't necessarily have to say, we're not admitting you. They will give you paperwork to sign, and they'll send you to an observation unit. So it's still covered, even though he went to the emergency room and then was not admitted. The observation unit kicks in there. Inpatient mental health benefit, just $175 per day for a maximum of 7 days per calendar year. It just has to be a certified mental health facility. That one's kind of cut and dry in those instances. And then the transportation and lodging benefit. This part is what I think is one of the best sellers of this base plan because nobody else offers this. This is one of those that's kind of a Medico only thing that we have. And what this is let's say your client has to travel 50 miles or more from their policy address. That's key to know. It's their policy address. I had a client again, or an agent with a client, and they always put their lake home on everything as their policy address. Well, of course, their lake home is nowhere near where they actually live. That's okay. They get to choose their policy address. That's not up to us. That's not even up to you as the agent, really. It's whichever one that they decide to put on there. But they have to travel 50 miles or more for some kind of healthcare cost or healthcare facility, medical facility, just receiving care in one of those. Even if it's like a Mayo clinic where they go for a day and receive chemotherapy, that's still receiving medical attention, medical care. They're going to receive $100 per day for a maximum of 10 days. So think $1,000 for that travel. And with that, if you're selling in those rural areas, kind of out in the boonies a little bit, that could be your lead in to this conversation. I always say my parents, for instance, they live 100 miles from the nearest hospital. There is one in their small town, but I don't think you would trust it to even go get stitches. So they live 100 miles from a big hospital. They would instantly receive payment. And to me, that's kind of comforting knowing that they're going to get that gas money back. And if my mom goes, then it's going to help cover some of that payment of my dad having to stay down there. Or they might be missing work. My dad owns a business. He's going to miss work, which means he's going to miss income. Well, this is going to help offset that just a little bit. So again, be personal with it. With the benefits, with our base benefits, there is a restoration here. So what that means is we took Jane, and we said that Jane chose that 6-day option, so that most popular, and she's hospitalized for 5 days, and then she's discharged. After that 5 days, she is healthy as can be, and she goes 60 continuous days out of the hospital. Medico resets her days back to 6. Now, this is going to be continuous. So anytime during the year that she goes into the hospital, if she's out for 60 days, it's going to reset back to her original. And then let's look at our optional rider. So how are we going to personalize this coverage? This is the big part of that conversation. This is where our whole conversation lies when finding out what are their concerns, what are their needs. Are they worried about having to even get to the hospital? Are they worried about specialized riders? Just having those conversations about their baseline health with the MAs or the med subs or anything like that is going to lead in. You might already have kind of an idea of what those riders are going to look like for them. Now, our leading rider, and the one that I think should be on every single policy out there, is an ambulance rider. So think about an ambulance, right? If you have to call them, or if your client has to call them, or your parent has to call them, they're not going to ask them 100 questions. They're just going to say, okay, where are you? And then they're going to take them to the nearest hospital. If they call me, I'm going to ask 100 questions. I'm probably going to have to Google map how to get to the hospital if I don't already know. And then the whole way there, they're going to be in pain. They're not going to receive treatment. Now, if they're in an ambulance, whether that's ground or air, because those are both covered, they're going to receive treatment the whole way to the hospital. And that ambulance is always going to take them to an emergency room. So again, just for the sake of convenience, an ambulance rider should always be added. And now this rider is also averaging about $3 a month in premium, so not very expensive. For $250 per day, up to 4 days per calendar year, the lifetime maximum is $2,500. And again, this is ground or air transportation. The next one here is kind of that 2-for-1. It's the only rider that's going to offer 2 pieces for 1 premium. This is up to $50, or it is $50 per day for either 15 or 30. Now notice that's or, not through 30. So you're going to have to choose a 15 or 30. Those are going to difference in premium about $1, $1.20, so it's not much. If you can go for the 30 days, by all means, go for that. For that outpatient therapy, that's going to include like occupational, speech, or physical therapy. And then it also includes that 5 days for chiropractic services. Now, that chiropractic services, it consists of manual adjustments or manipulations of the spine. This is not going to be like if your client wakes up and they have a stiff neck that morning and they go to the chiropractor. This is going to be like maybe they had a car wreck and that's what's causing the neck pain. Then they can go because they have a leading cause already. It's not just something like, oh, my back hurts, oh, my neck hurts, something like that. It's something has happened to cause this. Outpatient surgery benefit rider. This is one of our most popular as well. It's actually our second most popular rider. It's 2 days per calendar year. They just can't be there over 24 hours. Think about cataract surgeries. We're usually talking to a senior market, so a cataract surgery is kind of one of those popular ones. If they do one eye, they're probably going to do the other one, and they're not going to have to stay overnight. They go home that same day. They get to choose their amount per day, so $250, $500, $750, or $1,000. They're going to choose, again, guys, I know that the dollar amounts get confusing, but they're on My Enroller, so please use your My Enroller here. Skilled nursing facility benefit rider. Now, this one they can choose one of the 3 amounts, and it's up to 50 days. And then we see that one-time restoration of benefits. This is if they're off of care for 180 days, so it's 6 months is what this one's actually going to come out to. It is longer than the baseline one or the basics one. That's okay, but they're only going to be able to use that once per lifetime of the policy. So it's only going to restore one time. But if you think about it, it's about 100 days versus 50 days instead. Lump sum cancer rider. So this is another one that only Medico offers in a certain way. Other places might offer a cancer rider, but they can't offer it at a 2-year look-back period. Nowhere else has a 2-year look-back period. It's going to be 5, 8 years, something along those lines for their rider. If you have a client who maybe had cancer 5 years ago, they're aware of how expensive it can be, and they can come here and get a rider on their hospital indemnity plan. Now, with that, they're going to be able to choose their amounts there out of that list, and it's going to be a once lifetime lump sum payment that is tax-free. So they're going to file their claim. Medico is going to say, okay, yep, this checks out. It's on the first diagnosis of internal cancer or malignant melanoma, and then we're going to pay them their lump sum, whatever they've chosen, and then we're going to deplete the premium off the policy. They will receive a letter that says, you've used your lump sum cancer benefit rider, this was your premium, and this is your new premium. So they no longer pay premium on it. Once they've been paid that lump sum, it is done. So maybe they chose that $10,000, and within 2 years of having the policy, they develop some form of cancer, they file it, and we pay them the $10,000. They're never going to pay in premium what they're going to receive out of it. That's another big talking point. When you're talking to somebody that maybe they're just seeing premium and dollar amounts, come to the lump sum cancer rider here and say, let's look here at the math and see that you can pay in a lot less than what you would be paid out. Urgent care center, this one has been very popular this year for some pretty obvious reasons. This is $50 per day, up to 4 days per calendar year. So when COVID is still going on, was the first round or so when people had the testing centers, And I know here in Omaha, we still have them there. I'm not sure about your area. They were at urgent care centers. And so when they would go in and get tested for COVID, it would be on their claim as an urgent care center. So people could file it here, receive their, usually it's about a $40 copay, but they would still receive $50 back. On that, they could do it up to 4 days per calendar year. Now, in normal times, urgent care centers are still becoming more popular just because they can do a lot of the same things as emergency rooms. They can reset bones, they can do stitches. I believe, I know one of ours can do x-rays too around here. So they're also, it's a less waiting time. Usually you're kind of in and out. They're becoming a lot more popular. Also, urgent care center and the ambulance rider are only two riders that can be added to a policy after it's been written. So if you write a policy, you can add the urgent care center and the ambulance rider once it's effective. Those are the only two. So it's another reason why it has become more popular. And our last one, the lump sum hospital confinement benefit rider. So this one is just maybe for somebody who has a little bit bigger budget. They're going to go into the hospital and they just receive that payment up to 3 benefit periods per year. So lots to talk about. There's so many ways that during that conversation at your sit down for AEP, you can work in how these riders would kind of make their life a little easier. If they express any kind of concern to you, you can say, hey, I have something that can cover that. Let's come back to it. And you can almost build this policy as you go through that conversation. Now, your next question is probably going to be, what's underwriting look like? Because you can start narrowing it down through the questions that you have and what you already know and what you're getting as feedback from your client. So there's 9 health questions. These are yes or no questions. They have to be answered no because they are knockout. It's a very short application. There's no interview. There's no medical exam. There's no prescription drug screen. But you are going to see on there we're asking the past 12 months or past 24 months. These questions that you see here on the screen. The one I want to point out here is that used oxygen. Sometimes people get just a little bit confused. If you have a client that's on a CPAP machine, that is not considered using oxygen. I'm talking like 24/7, those like little hoses that go up their nose and they have that tank that comes around with them. That's using oxygen. If they're life dependent on it, then yep, they are using it, unfortunately. But CPAP, no, not so much. It's only for that time they're sleeping. We also have that 6-month pre-existing condition limitation. So pre-existing conditions, they just won't be covered for the first 6 months of a policy. Like asthma, I have a coworker who has asthma and she's had it her whole life. If she were to get a hospital indemnity product and maybe a couple months in, she goes to the hospital for a asthma-related incident or something, it's not going to be covered right then until that first 6 months is up. And then you have that 2-year contestability period. So this is where a lot of people kind of get hung up on. And this is for your client's benefit. Whether it seems like it or not sometimes, it's for their benefit. What we are trying to prevent are more claims that should have been answered in the application to reduce any kind of chance of having to go up in premium or anything like that. Right now, we have a very good control on how our premiums are, and we don't have to raise them at all. So it's 2-year contestability period. I'm going to use that COPD as an example because that's the one that we see the most. Clients will say, nope, I don't have COPD, I have asthma. And then they'll file a claim within 8 months, and in their health records, whether it's this claim is COPD related or not, in their health records, it will say that they have the COPD. And we'll go back and we'll ask them, and they'll say, oh, yeah, but I thought I just had asthma. Well, it's not the same. I'm sorry. And then their policy will be rescinded and we'll send their premium back. That's what we want to avoid. So make sure that when you're out there talking to your client, because we all know that sometimes they're not the most forthcoming with anything that they have going on, and say, hey, if you know that you have these, you cannot file a claim within the first 24 months. So if you have any questions about that, guys, just please feel free to ask them. By all means, we can always talk about it. Again, we want to pay our claims, but we want to pay them on the right circumstances there. So we want them to be as truthful as they possibly can. That's bottom line. So let's look at a client scenario here with this hospital indemnity. And we have Anna, And Anna is 70, and she currently has a plan that has a $6,700 out-of-pocket maximum. And she is walking through her mailbox one day, and one of her dogs walks by her and trips her, and she slips and falls. I have 4 dogs, so this is something that would happen to me. And she is rushed to the hospital by ambulance. Nobody's home to take her, so she calls an ambulance, and they take her. So when she goes to the hospital, this is before she has a hospital indemnity plan. Please keep that in mind. She ends up having to have a 5-day stay, and it's at $360 per day. And then after that, her doctor says, you know, your hips just aren't quite right, so I'm going to send you to a skilled nursing facility for 20 days, and that's going to be at $120 per day. And right here, I really wanted to encourage you guys to know what a skilled nursing facility kind of ranges in your area, for when you have that conversation, you can let them know, hey, this is what we're looking at here. It's not going to be covered in your baseline health plan costs, so maybe let's look at the hospital indemnity. So this little adventure of hers, her little accident, ended up costing her $1,800 in inpatient, $50 for that emergency room, a $200 ambulance ride, and then $2,400 in the skilled nursing facility. Out of pocket, if you can remember, her out-of-pocket maximum was $6,700, so she's going to have to pay the $4,450. So let's look here. And this is that worksheet I referenced earlier. This worksheet is a fillable PDF, and I think it's awesome. When I was first trying to figure out hospital indemnity, we came up with this worksheet. So it's something that I kind of had a hand in, and I'm really proud of it too because it's so easy. I simplified it down to my level too when I was like, hey, I'm not really sure. So how do you explain this to somebody who doesn't necessarily know what you're talking about right then and there? It's just a giant math problem. So the top of it is going to be their baseline plan. So if they have an MA plan, maybe through Humana or somebody like that, you put that in the top. So you put that in their current health insurance plan and copays. Right here, it's going to have their total out-of-pocket costs. And then down here at the bottom, you're going to fill in what their new Medico hospital indemnity plan would be. And then you're going to come up with what their payout would be. So it's going to show you the benefit of the plan versus what their payment would be out of pocket. So it almost it does the work for you. And like I said, it's a fillable PDF. You can print this out. It's a great leave behind. But during AEP, I encourage you to have one of these with you. I encourage you to fill one out maybe even before you talk to your client. If you know what their kind of needs and concerns are, go ahead and fill one out for them and say, hey, this is what I've come up with. How's this look to you? Do we need to go through and change it? Let's have a conversation about it. So here we took Anna, and Anna said, hey, you know, I have a little bit tighter budget, so what can you do for me, kind of baseline, and then just a couple things covered for me. So we said, okay, let's look here. So we got her hospital indemnity plan here, so her base plan. We remember it's going to have the inpatient and observation unit, emergency rooms covered, and transportation lodging is covered, and that's what's going to be covered here. So we can see how those are. And then we said, hey, we're always going to add an ambulance rider. So we added it. And then we've seen that she needed some skilled nursing coverage. So we added that as well. So what we're seeing here is that Medico would end up paying her $4,150 for this adventure. Instead of her paying the $4,450, she would pay $300 out of pocket. Now, that's going to vary based on her budget. So what we could do is end up making her a little bit more expansive in that worksheet here. And we could add, we could take away, we could up her dollar amount to maybe what we're seeing in your guys' area with that $350 to $400. I'm going to show you in a couple slides ways that we can do that and what that would look like, and a great piece for you to take along with you. But sticking with that selling here, we talked about it earlier, like the time of year to go ahead and talk about a hospital indemnity plan. During AEP is an awesome time, especially with this worksheet, because you can sit down with them. Even if you can't sit face-to-face, maybe you can fill it out, email over to them. If you can do a screen share, if you're familiar with GoToWebinar here, there's a meeting part where you can just send them an email and it brings them right into a meeting, or Zoom, either of those things, any of those things. You can get those over to them, and you guys can follow along on this worksheet together. Or maybe you do a first quarter follow-up. When you come back from that first quarter, you can talk to them about, hey, now that you've kind of understood your plan just a little bit more, let's talk about those high co-payments, those out-of-pocket costs, what we can do for them. What does that solution look like? And this worksheet's going to help you tremendously And yes, it's part of the follow-up package I'm going to send you guys today. This is the other piece I really want to touch on here. So these are called value charts. And we just kind of went through and filled this out. And we used Anna again. We made some adjustments just to see what she would look like if we upped it to the average per day. So that's $350 for 6-day benefit. Monthly premium is still under $20. So that's just the base plan. So if their base budget was $20, you could still get them the inpatient, the observation, emergency room, travel and lodging, all covered here in that for less than $20 with a potential payout of $2,100. We see the ambulance, we see the skilled nursing. The one I want to point out here, though, is that lump sum cancer at the bottom, less than $9 in premium for a $5,000 payout. We see all in all, if we added every rider to Anna's plan for what we're seeing kind of on average with each of these are not just random numbers for the benefits selected. These are all the averages that we're seeing at Medico. That's why they're here. We see about $53.55, but the potential payout, guys, is $14,400. So what I encourage you to do, and actually one of our top-selling hospital indemnity agents told me about this, and this is what he does, and especially during AEP, makes about 5 or 6 of these tables with different plans, maybe a male and female, different ages, different zip codes, all of those things, different riders on here and amounts. Makes about 5 or 6 of these so that he doesn't always have to bring out the My Enroller. He can say, hey, look, this matches perfectly to you, and just lays these out for them as kind of built-in plans already done. And it builds just a little bit more confidence in his clients. So I pass that along to you guys from one of the top-selling hospital indemnity agents. I think it's a great thing to do. It's easy. It's totally inexpensive marketing, and it is kind of cut and dry. If you showed this to me, I would be a lot more likely to buy it. And I tell people that too. If you have somebody that is kind of premium conscious, which is what I would be, it kind of talks them into it. It talks them out of it with the premium and then right back into it with that potential payout. You're going to look at that 53 and think, oh, $53 a month, I don't know. But also, I can't afford to miss out on $14,000. So it's going to help that argument, that internal argument of, do I want to spend the money, do I not? So I encourage you to make some of these charts. You can use that one as an example or pull that slide off of there whenever you get these later today. If you're looking for other marketing material, head on out to the Medico site. There's customer and agent material out there for you guys. Head on out there, take a look. There's tables, there's the flyers. You can send out highlight sheets. I'm also going to send you one of our highlight sheets. It's a agent to consumer, so that'll be part of your little package that you get today too. But there's postcards out here, so you can send those out if you would like as well. All right, so how are we going to write this? We're going to write it using the My Enroller. If you're not familiar with My Enroller, it is kind of our app and quoting processing unit. It's an industry leading. It is awesome. You can use it with or without Wi-Fi. You can use it on desktop, laptop, tablet, whatever you want to use it on. When I say tablet, though, that is an iPad. I am so sorry it does not work with Android tablets yet. It is something that we have been looking into for a little while, but it's going to be an iPad. One of the best parts of this, and I'm just going to kind of skip down to it, is that bottom line, because it accepts e-signatures and voice authorizations. I'm going to walk you through what that voice authorization is going to look like, because that's what's going to come in as a huge factor for you during AEP, and maybe even right now if you're not familiar with that. You just do it over the phone. But while we go through this, keep in mind that 76% of our overall applications are submitted using My Enroller. If it's a hospital indemnity plan, it's about 92% of those applications. And you've seen all the dollar amounts and day amounts, so you can probably understand why. Nobody wants to try to remember that. If you need to download your My Enroller, you're going to go out there to that MIC website, and you see all the way over here, that's where you're going to click on it and download it. Now, to get into here, you do have to be a registered agent, and you'll need your agent number. If you need help with contracting, Jess told you that. If you need help with your agent number, I can help you with that, and it's super easy once you go ahead and get that contracting done. So you go over here, and then it's going to give you the 3 options. You can do the My Enroller, iPad, or My Enroller online. And this is where people get confused, because it says online. Everybody thinks they need to go there. But please keep this in mind. that online action, and I actually think that since then we've updated how this is stated because it was confusing. It's actually for Apple products. That's going to work better with their Citrix, so like a MacBook is going to be that My Enroller Online. If you're using anything else, so like when I'm at home, I have a Lenovo laptop, I use the My Enroller, so the first one. So the first one is what you always want to use if you're using a Dell or a regular computer that is not a MacBook. Okay, so the voice authorization. When you get into your My Enroller and you're writing an application, you're going to come to the signature option, and there's 3 options for you. There's electronic, there's voice, and there's paper. So if you go on the voice authorization, you'll click it, and then you'll see the next. It'll come here, request for voice authorization. You want to go here because this is what's going to show you how to conference you and your client in. And when you're conferenced in, it's just a phone number. So I'll go here so you can see it. You're going to call that phone number, and it's going to record you and your client. That recording is their signature. Now, there are some steps you will have to follow. Like you see, it needs your agent number. It's going to give you a prompt of what to read, and you'll read it word for word. And then at the end of it, you have to push that pound button for it to end the recording and save it. Sometimes people get just a little too jump happy with it and just hang up. Well, it doesn't actually end your recording. So make sure you just follow along on here. Very easy, guys. On average, this takes maybe 3 to 4 minutes. So it's not going to take you a long time to get through this, especially when your My Enroller application only takes about 10 minutes. It's not going to take up your whole day. It's not going to keep you on hold or anything like that. You just call that number in, it records you, and then you both can hang up. It tells you what to say for your agent or for your client to kind of get those yes or no answers out of them so that it's not trying to confuse them or confuse you or anything like that. All right, so we're almost done. Now, while we're getting ready to go into AIP, we are finishing up our 3rd quarter agent incentive. Now, we're going to have a new one on October 1st, and I think for you guys it's going to be great because, like I said, just a little prelude. I can't actually tell you yet what it is, but North Carolina is our leading hospital indemnity state, so it's going to be very key for you guys around that product perhaps. But right now, for the Summer Cash Splash, this is going to be around our products, the first diagnosis cancer and dental dental products. It's running until the end of September. And that flyer there, you can pull off mix. But again, I'm going to put that in the attachments out to you guys, so you'll see it. Don't worry. And then this is how it works. There are 2 tiers. You have to sell 3 products to get to the first tier. And once you get to that first tier, 3 through 9 are going to earn $35 per application. And then tier 2 is going to be 10 plus. That gets you $50 per application. So maybe if you get to that 12 applications, like you see over here on the example, you can do both products, or you can do either or. It does not matter. If you don't want to mix and match, if you just want to write cancer applications, by all means, go for it. But if you get to 12, you see it's $50. That equals $600 total payout. That's a nice little bonus to have. And like you might already know, but Medico pays their bonus and commissions all the way through AEP. We don't hold them until January. You're going to receive these all the way through AEP. So if you're riding with Medico, you're going to get quite a bit of money going before you even get to January. I do have one more thing to talk about with you guys today, and that is Medico is also doing an AIP Kickoff on September 22nd. You guys will receive a sign-up link if you would like to join us. It would be awesome. We're just going to talk about some Medico products. We're going to have some guest speakers. We're going to give some prizes that are really cool. I know one of them I had a say in, and I think it's really great. I know as an agent, you'll probably like to have it. I would say that prize will end up saving you some money in the long run, but it is September 22nd. It's not going to be super long. We know that you guys are so busy, so we don't want to take up all of your time, but you can come shake it up with us. And the reason it's shake it up, that's our AEP theme of the year. It is virtual, obviously, so hopefully you can join us. I'll send some information out in our follow-up. But overall, guys, I just want to say thank you for being on here. I love working with Messer. It's always great to call out. When you guys call in, I know it's going to be a good conversation. And I love that relationship that we have going. So it's great to work together. These phone numbers you see on here, the reason I put my cell phone on here is because my office number actually comes to my cell phone. So no matter what, you're getting it. So I go ahead and put it on here. If you need me, just call out. I'll answer pretty much whenever I can. We actually started working from home in January, not because of COVID. That's just what we do now. We work from home. You might have heard Miss snores a lot underneath my desk while we were going. I have an Australian Shepherd, and she is a snorer. So we're at home. If you need me, by all means, just call me. And then again, that's your agent website. You'll see that it does not have the www dot. That's because it's agent facing. You've got to be contracted to get on there. So again, I know that Jeff told you how to get contracted. So if you need to, go do that. So you can use the My Enroller and use that awesome hospital indemnity product, earn some incentive bonus bucks, and come to the AIP Kickoff. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great week. Thanks for having me. Hopefully we have some good ideas on how to incorporate that conversation during AEP.
Awesome. Gus, just a couple questions there before you go. All right. As far as the benefit period, does it reset if we hit the required 60 days per our Medicare Part A benefit? Would that take place?
So with us, if you hit that 60 days, it's going to be the base part of the hospital indemnity plan. So like that, the hospital confinement, the observation unit, emergency room, mental health, and transportation and lodging, that's what's going to reset, not the rider. So each rider kind of has its own time limit on there of what it will say on how many times you can use it per year. But that base plan will reset after 60 days, yes.
Awesome. Okay. And then had a question about ESRD, which has come up a few times with our presenters for the Medicare Advantage plans. In the event somebody maybe has ESRD, but they haven't gotten to the point where they're using dialysis, would they have an issue with the underwriting with you guys?
So that's one of those. Dialysis it's a touchy question if they haven't got there. With our underwriters, you can actually do a pre-screen. You can call in, you can talk to them. That might be a case-by-case subject. I would encourage you to call into underwriting, have that conversation with them so they can put a note in that document when they see the application come through that they know where they are in that process. And I can send you that underwriting phone number. I can never remember it off the top of my head, just so you guys do have it. But I would encourage you to go ahead and call in instead of me giving you a cut and dry answer on that one, because it might be a case-by-case basis.
That's great. And we'll obviously get these slides out to everybody that was kind enough to join us today. One question from a gentleman: is voice approval available in Spanish? Do we have any way to make sure that we take care of our bilingual customers?
That's a great question. I believe that it will show it to them. It'll show it to the agent in English, as far as I know, but they can read it in Spanish if they wish to. We are just kind of breaking into that Spanish world, so we have a highlight sheet that's in Spanish, and that's about as far as we have gotten right now. So it's going to be new on there, but you can read it in Spanish if you wish to. I know, like for me, I am not that good at reading Spanish. So if you are, then by all means, good luck with that.
Okay, and where would we find that if we were speaking Spanish or had a desire to do so? Where would that be located in the agent portal?
The highlight sheet?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
How about I just send it over to you?
Okay,
it's kind of buried in there, I think. It's a little bit harder to find, so I'll just include it in that follow-up package for you.
Awesome. Okay, well, that looks like we've got most of the questions answered here, I believe. Just want to remind everybody again, if you don't have this great carrier contracted at this time, make sure you reach out to producer support or log into your Sure LC profile via Messer Financial Group and request that appointment. We're happy to get that process for you in a very quick amount of time so that you can do your studying and be comfortable with that product as you get ready to roll into October. Another reminder, guys, make sure that you get that scope filled out correctly so that you can talk about these products when you're in the home or over the telephone visiting with your client. We want to make sure that we do compliant presentations at all times. If you have additional questions, again, the phone number here, 866-568-9649, and producer support extension is, I believe, 7813. We've gone to a digital format, so we had to add a 7 on to everybody there. if you haven't called in a little while, which hopefully you have, but just make note of that. Also want to remind everybody that we continue to improve and enhance the Messer Financial website. We brought on our good friend Ken Smith, who is doing not only a blog on the website, but also a podcast. So I would encourage you guys to get out, find that on your favorite deliverer of that service, and tune in to hear Ken share some very special insight on how to improve the quality of your sales presentations and the quality of yourself as an agent. And we appreciate his contributions there. Also want to remind you guys to reach out to some of our folks that aren't located here in Mint Hill, North Carolina. We've got our good friend Karen Stiggers that operates regional office down in Atlanta. If you need to reach out to her, please make sure that you do. She's a great asset and resource for us here at Messer Financial Group. Spent a lot of time in the field as an agent and has a lot of valuable information to share with you. Karen will be taking part in a virtual NAU presentation toward the end of September. So if you need some information about that and want to attend that, make sure that you reach out to her. A lot of good things going on, guys. As I mentioned, we'll be kicking off a lot of our under 65 webinars and webinars on the functionality of MyMFG. So make sure that you tune in and check out your emails from Messer Financial Group so that you stay in the know. If you happen to miss those, or maybe they're going in a spam folder, be sure to check our website and check our calendar and make note of when those great webinars are going to be. Again, want to thank everybody for joining us. Please reach out to us here if you have any questions at the office. Stay safe and take a moment to be a little nicer and kinder to everybody in today's world. It's amazing how far that can go, and you'll be a much better person for it, and so will the world. So with that, you guys have a great and safe Wednesday afternoon. Take care, and thanks again to everybody for attending, and our good friend Augusta Norris. Hope your weather gets a little bit better, Augusta. It was rainy here as well. But with that, have a great afternoon, everybody, and take care. Thank you so much for joining. Bye-bye.
Thank you.